The HOA president stepped on my wife's roses in her white sneakers and handed me a violation notice while I was still on my knees in the dirt. That was the moment I knew this wasn't about grass height anymore. My wife Sarah died 18 months ago, ovarian cancer, fast and cruel. She was 38. We bought this house in the suburbs of Phoenix because she fell in love with the front yard. She said it had good sun for roses. Her last week in hospice, she made me promise one thing: not to sell the house, not to move on quickly, just to plant yellow Lady Banks roses along the fence line so she could see them from the kitchen window, even though she wouldn't be here to see them. I kept that promise. I ripped out the HOA approved rocks and desert gravel. The week after the funeral, I spent 3 weekends digging, amending the soil, planting 12 rose bushes. I put a small white bench in the middle. I put a little brass plaque that just said for Sarah. For 6 months, it was the only thing that got me out of bed. Then the letters started. First, it was a friendly reminder from Desert Ridge Estates HOA. All landscaping changes must be pre-approved by the Architectural Committee. Please submit Form 7B. I submitted it. I included photos of Sarah. I explained it was a memorial. They denied it in 4 days. Non-conforming plant species exceeds maximum floral height, creates inconsistent streetscape. I thought they were joking. I went to the next HOA meeting. I brought the denial letter. Linda Marlowe, the president, is exactly what you'd expect. Late 60s, visor, clipboard permanently attached to her hand. She runs our HOA like it's a small country. I stood up during open forum. My voice cracked. I told them about Sarah, about the promise, about how the roses weren't hurting anyone. Linda smiled that tight smile. She said, "We all have losses, Mr. Henderson, but rules are rules. We can't make exceptions or everyone will want a memorial garden. Imagine the precedent." The room was silent. My neighbor Tom looked at his shoes. I went home and I didn't rip them out. I couldn't. 3 days later, the fines started: $200 per day per violation. They counted each rose bush as a separate violation. That's $2,400 a day. I got a certified letter with a spreadsheet. Day 1, $2. 400, day 2, $4,800. By the end of week 1, I owed $16,800. I called a lawyer. He laughed, but not in a mean way. He said HOAs in Arizona have more power than most people realize. He said I could fight it. It would cost $15,000 minimum, and I'd probably lose. I stopped sleeping. I started getting letters from their attorney about placing a lien on my house. The house Sarah and I bought together, the house with her roses in the front. I tried to compromise. I offered to trim them shorter. I offered to put a border around them. I offered to pay a one-time fine. Linda emailed back, "Remove all unapproved plantings within 72 hours or we proceed with foreclosure proceedings." Foreclosure over roses. That's when something in me broke, but not the way she wanted. I stopped feeling sad and I started feeling angry, cold, clear angry. I spent the next 72 hours not pulling roses but reading. I read the entire 87-page CC&Rs. I read Arizona State HOA law. I read City of Phoenix Municipal Code until my eyes burned. And on page 412 of the City Code, I found it, a law from 1923, still active: any private property that is dedicated as a public memorial garden or pocket park and maintained for public access for a minimum of 5 years becomes exempt from private HOA landscaping restrictions and is eligible for a property tax reduction. It was written for war memorials after no one had used it in decades. I called my old college roommate, Mark. He's now a city planner. I sent him photos of the garden. I asked him if it was crazy. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "It's not crazy, it's perfect, but you have to actually open it to the public, like for real, a path, a sign, hours of operation. You can't fake it." I looked out my window at Sarah's roses. They were blooming, yellow everywhere. Bees were all over them. Kids on the street would stop their bikes to look. Linda thought she was going to bury me in fines. She had no idea I was about to give her exactly what she was afraid of: a precedent. I didn't sleep that night. I drafted the paperwork to dedicate a 1,200 square foot portion of my front yard as the Sarah Henderson Memorial Rose Park. I filed it with the city at 8:02 a.m. the next morning. By noon, I had a case number. By p.m., I had an email from the city saying it was under review. At 4:15 p.m., Linda and 2 board members showed up at my door with a landscaper and a work order to remedy the violation. I opened the door, smiled for the first time in months, and handed her a copy of the city filing. Her face went white. Linda read the first page 3 times. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. This isn't valid," she stammered. "You can't just declare your yard a park." "Actually," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I can, and I just did. Arizona Revised Statutes 9-461. It's pending approval, which means under state law, you have to cease all enforcement actions related to landscaping until the city makes a determination. It's called a stay. I learned that word from Mark. Stay. It sounded powerful. She called their lawyer right there on my porch. I could hear him yelling through the phone. He was using words like unprecedented and exposure. The landscaper left, Linda left, but the fines kept coming in the mail for another week, which was illegal. I documented every single one. 3 weeks later, I got the letter from the City of Phoenix Parks Department, approved. The Sarah Henderson Memorial Rose Park was officially recognized as a Class 3 public pocket park. The conditions were simple. I had to install a 3 foot wide decomposed granite path from the sidewalk. I had to put up a small sign with public hours, AM to sunset. I had to maintain it, and I had to allow public access. I did all of it in one weekend. Tom from across the street helped me lay the path. 3 other neighbors brought plants. Someone I didn't even know donated a bench. On Monday morning, I emailed Linda a photo of the new bronze sign the city gave me, the tax exemption certificate, and a formal cease and desist for harassment. She didn't respond. But the HOA did. They called an emergency board meeting. I wasn't invited, but Tom Liv texted me. Linda tried to argue that the park devalued the neighborhood. The HOA's own lawyer told her that fighting a city-designated memorial park, especially one named after a cancer victim, would be a PR nightmare and they'd lose badly. He also told her that because it was now public land, even though I still owned it, the HOA had zero jurisdiction, not over the plants, the height, the bench, nothing, and that my property taxes on that portion would drop by 90%, which meant the HOA's budget, which was partly based on assessed values, would take a small hit. The best part came 2 weeks later. Because it was a public park, I applied for and received a $2,500 city beautification grant to expand it. I used the money to plant 20 more rose bushes along the property line, right where Linda's house is visible from the street. Then I sent the HOA an invoice for $33,600, the total amount of illegal fines they charged me after I filed for the stay. Their lawyer called me. He offered to settle for wiping the fines clean. I said no, I wanted a check and a written apology posted on the community bulletin board. He laughed. He said I'd never get it. I filed in small claims court the next day. I brought my binder, every letter, every photo of Linda standing on the roses, every illegal fine, the city approval, the state law. I represented myself. The judge looked at Linda, who showed up in her visor. He looked at my binder. He looked at the photo of Sarah's plaque. He awarded me $33,600 plus court costs. In Arizona, HOAs that willfully violate state law during a dispute pay triple damages. The judge called it egregious and heartless. Linda had to write that check from the HOA reserve fund. She also had to post the apology. It's still there, laminated. It says, the Desert Ridge Estates HOA apologizes to Mr. Henderson for harassment regarding the Sarah Henderson Memorial Rose Park. The park is in its second year now. People come every day. There's a little guest book in a waterproof box. It's almost full. Kids raid on the bench. Old ladies take cuttings with permission. Last month, Linda put her house up for sale. She told Tom she couldn't stand the foot traffic. Yesterday, a young couple pushing a stroller stopped. The woman was crying. She told me her mom just died of cancer and the yellow roses reminded her of her mom's garden. I told her to take as many cuttings as she wanted. That's what Sarah would have wanted. Not a perfect HOA-approved yard. A messy, alive, public place where people remember who they love. The HOA still sends me newsletters. I use them as mulch.